guys, it's Floz here from Couple of Dabblers. I am coming back with another Chatty Stitch With Me video. If you've watched my last Chatty Stitch With Me, you would have known that I was stitching this big piece called The Countryside by Max Stitch. It's a Chinese company. I don't believe this is a knockoff, so fingers crossed it is not. I am doing this one once again because I find it very relaxing stitching this as of recently. Let's just start. I've just done my first stitch with this color and I've anchored that, and that's not going anywhere, which is good. And I also sort of know where I'm starting off with. I originally wanted to do this stitch with me a few days ago. I was hoping I could do it after work one day, but because of Easter, work has been crazy. There was one night we had a lot of people actually staying until 12, whereas normally we finish at 10. So if you don't know, I work in a production sort of environment. It is a job where you finish when the work is done rather than you have a very fixed finishing time. Obviously the start time is fixed, so yeah, we ended up working until very late, but it's all good. We've got Easter breaks now. So yeah, because I wanted to do this quite a few days ago, or I have been wanting to do this for a few days now. What I wanted to talk to you kept changing. Originally, I wanted to talk about a Netflix show that I recently just finished. It's a reality show called The Bling Empire. I wanted to share my thoughts on that, but I sort of feel like there's no point. No one really cares what my thoughts are on a show. Plus, it's not a very meaningful show. From my last stitch with me, I've got some feedbacks. Overall, very positive ones. I wasn't know how my rambling was gonna be received, but I was surprised that some people were actually very interested in hearing me talk about different lives or different lifestyles in both China and Australia from personal experience. So yeah, I think I'll talk about that today. You might or you might not be very curious about my accent and my English. So I might talk to you about how I got my English to where I am today. You could see that as a positive thing, or you could see that as, oh, her English is really horrible. I don't know. So let's go back to, I think when I was 6, so that would have been 1998, long time ago, 22 years ago. That's when I first started learning English. So at that time, English wasn't a big thing, but my mum was working in a private company that had some businesses with, I think, Germany. So she got to know a bit about Western society, I suppose. And she had this hunch that English was gonna be so important. So when everyone else was just letting their kids have fun, doing whatever, just getting through preschool, she ended up I guess, booking me into this English course with all the other 6, 7 year olds. At the time, like, you have that course, and I think the coursework had some books included, and then also the cassette, if you remember cassettes. So I remember it started off just having some simple phrases. Obviously, each class would have a topic we would learn about. From food to greetings to maybe places of interests. I really don't quite remember. I think there were many books in this course, and the first few books, when you got through them, they were mostly focused on talking, but eventually you would have to memorize some vocabularies. So I was just tagging along, doing my lessons, and then when I was at home, my mom would just play these cassettes in the background, especially when it was morning, because I think she read it somewhere that you have this subconscious learning even though you're not paying attention, but if you keep repeating it day by day, somehow whatever you were listening to at the time would just sink in. So in the morning, I could be brushing my teeth, eating my breakfast, I don't know, getting ready. She's braiding my hair or something like that. But the English course would just keep getting played in the background, and I would just be doing my thing. I think I have to note though that I was very lucky, because at the time when I was doing this course, our English teacher had no accent. I mean, it's very rare, especially at that time, to have an English teacher with pretty much no accent. I remember she was quite pretty. So she was teaching English at night, let's say in the evening. Let's say from 5 o'clock or something, like maybe 5 to 7, I don't remember. But during the day, she was also doing a master course in broadcasting. So her ultimate dream was to be on TV and be a TV host, talking about news, maybe selling something, I don't know. Probably ultimately talking about news. So I remember, I was doing this course for quite a few years. I want to say at least 2 years, because I remember I got through quite a few books. I mean, those are thin books. I don't remember whether we were required to recite certain content, but I think from my mum's, I guess, negative learning method, I ended up being able to recite a lot of the parts. So I think that helped. And then the fact that your first English teacher had no accent helped you to really minimize your Chinese accent. Anyways, so I was tagging along at this course. I remember when I was about to finish with this course and moving on to some other English lessons, she also finished her broadcasting training. And she actually got accepted into a local TV channel. I don't remember doing what though, but I remember her being so excited because, that's her dream. But that means she had to stop teaching English. I think her appearance definitely helped to get her into being a TV host, but also her English was great. So I think ultimately she ended up being some kind of I'm not reality show, but like for Chinese New Year, we have the TV channels or TV programs that celebrate it. She would be the local Chinese New Year host, well, TV show host, but in English form. So she would take on the English translation part, and she did a really, really good job. So then eventually she moved from just being a TV, I guess, broadcaster. I think she even got into like acting. So that's how cool it was. And I remember being a kid thinking, wow, I know someone who's an actress. That's pretty amazing. Even though ever since I finished that course, I never saw her again. So after I finished with that, I guess, starting English course, I had a little bit of basic English training. Then, well, I probably should say this. So I went to primary school when I was about to be 7 years old. And at that time, English was not started at year 1. So English was started at year 3. Although a few years after I started primary school, the policy changed that English was started from first year in primary. But anyways, so then I started primary school, and after a while, my mom thought, it's probably time to like pick it up a notch. So then there's this, I guess, starting stage of practicing speaking English with actual Westerners, and there were a couple of schools that were doing very well. So then she got some information about this particular English school where you got a test speaking with someone to determine how high level your English was. And then you could start from the level they determined for you. But I was very shy. I mean, I'm still shy, but when I was a kid, I was, wow, next level shy. I was already shy speaking Chinese to people, let alone speaking in another language. So my mom forced me to go through this little test. I think they thought I was alright, but I still started not from the very beginning level, but like the next level up. So then I started doing this speaking English course. And I think I ultimately did it for, wow, maybe 4 or 5 years. I did it for a long time. So that particular course, I think there were 13 levels. And I started, so they had level 0 as well, but I started from level 1. And I believe from level 1 to level 10, you get one Chinese English teacher and a Westerner, so like a native speaker. So that Chinese teacher would help you if you somehow couldn't understand the native speaker. But the goal was to use English all the way during this class. So we would get given course material as well. I think it was a picture book sort of English material with like kids drawn on, and then the English, all the topics they were speaking, so a bit of English writing on there. And then you would get questions after the actual content. So the teachers could ask you, it could be like, something like what kind of flowers you like, or explain why you like this, blah, 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 or tell us some experience of something, for example. So I did that for a bit. And most of the teachers in that school had American/Canadian accent. Obviously, as a kid, you wouldn't know the difference between Canadian and American accent, or British. But I don't remember them having British people. It was more like American style English. So by the time when it was third year in school, when at primary school they finally started teaching you English. They start from hello, how are you, thank you, things like that. I got so bored because I was way beyond that point. But my mum thought, okay, so we've covered the speaking. What about like grammar, vocabularies? So then she got me into another English course. So by this time, I was doing 2 different English courses. So as you would remember, one was focused on speaking, and now she got me into this, I guess, writing focused course. So in this one, you get a little, I guess, paragraph or a little story. There would be quite a few new words in this little paragraph. And then the teacher would pay attention to, the usage of these vocabularies. And then there would be, I guess, foreign tenses, grammar in that, and the teacher would explain that too. So it was a lot more boring and dry, but I got through that. So I did that until I was in secondary school. Wow, a while. So I did that course. Well, I used the same material, but I did it in different places because we moved eventually. But anyways, so when people were struggling to remember fine, thank you, and you, I was exceeding most students at the time in English. My mum was very proud of it. But at the time, people didn't really care about accents. It's pretty much like, as long as you could speak and you could be understood, it's fine. And no one really talked about, oh, like how your accent sounded amazing. You really sound like a native speaker. You have no Chinese accent. No one ever told me that, so I didn't know about it. Anyways, and then as time goes by, there were more and more words I could remember. Or at the start, it was very easy words, and then the words got longer and longer. I didn't remember having too much trouble memorizing them. I remember, I'm not sure whether I figured it out myself or I got the experience somewhere. You could somehow spell a word according to how it's pronounced, but at the time I thought, okay, that's probably common sense, but I don't know, it surprised a lot of people. Because a lot of the time it's like A-P-P-L-E apple, A-P-P-L-E apple. You just keep repeating and then you magically memorize it. But I was literally like, okay, apple, there's A, there's P, and somehow the pronunciation means there's L, and then you just, remember a little bit. So memorizing vocabularies was not a huge problem for me. Sorry, I'm just checking. Where I need to start. Yay, found it. Okay, I need to start here. And I remember my primary school English teacher wasn't too bad in terms of having an accent and teaching English, but I remember the secondary school teacher had super strong accent. It was so bad that you could tell that she somehow was from the country China. I'm not joking. One of them was like really bad. And mind you, I was doing my secondary school at a very prestigious school in my city. But anyways, so yeah, from third year I started doing 2 English lessons. And in terms of English, I would not nail every test, but my score would always be really high, and I didn't have to sweat trying to master the coursework. And the Chinese school system English teaching, it is so dry. It's really boring. Thank God I didn't have to have trouble trying to remember things. I think otherwise I would go crazy. And they actually pay a lot more attention on writing instead of teaching you how to speak properly. An example would be, I guess, when to use, let's say, I'm in a car, I'm on a train, like the difference between in and on, or like, the difference between die off or die from, like one's internal, one's external, things like really dry stuff. And the tests, I think there will be multiple choice questions regarding like how a usage of a specific phrase or word would be correct. Or like, in this sentence, which word was the correct word in terms of meaning, or like the correct spelling of something. So you would have to do spelling part. And then there was also a listening part. It's literally like, I think I did. No, I didn't. Like, you need to listen to this tape and then write down whatever you hear, stuff like that. I don't even have really clear memory of what I did in terms of tests. So then, if you remember, I said I did that speaking course until maybe towards the end of my secondary school. So by that time, I reached level 10, and that's when you didn't have a Chinese tutor anymore. You only did the whole class with one native speaker. And the things you would talk about would be a bit more, I guess, complicated as well. But then it was high school. And I remember probably from secondary school, I just had this idea that I would want to study eventually in a foreign country, in an English-speaking country. With English, it's strange because I like it sort of because I'm good at it. I'm not sure I was actually passionate about it in the first place. Whether I would be passionate about it if I were not very good at speaking, or, if I were not very good at English. But either way, I just had this idea as a teenager that I would want to go eventually receive education in an English-speaking country. And at the time, my mom listened because I told my mom, but she was like, I don't think we can afford it. We're not well off. We're literally just, normal employees, working class. But then, at the time, she had, I guess you would call her ex-colleague, who married to America. And then they became friends somewhere along the way before she went to America. So after she stayed in America for a few years, that's when I got into a pretty good high school. She was like suggesting to my mom, have you ever thought about letting your daughter come into America to do high school? My mom, I have a feeling my mom gave it serious thought. But literally it was too expensive. Especially, you can't just do high school in America. You would also do university or college, I guess, afterwards. And there's no way she could afford that. So she told me about it. She said, this was suggested, but I don't think that's feasible for our family's finance situation anyways. So I was like, okay. And then later on, I asked her, how likely do you think would it be for me to do university in a foreign country. But because I mentioned my dream, I guess you could call it, to study abroad, she was actually trying really hard to save money. So she's like, I think that's possible, because I have been trying to save money a bit more, I guess, with a bit more effort. So then originally we had this idea that, okay, we will go to America. So I stopped doing the casual speaking oriented class and grammar focused class. But started doing like intense vocabularies or SAT related things. And also like the IELTS course. I think at that time I was 16 to 17, and suddenly IELTS was the thing to go abroad. Oh, I should have mentioned. Like I said, my speaking English classes were, I guess, American English, but the school coursework was British. Maybe that could be how you might be able to hear hints of my American accent, and certain words I would, I guess, speak in a British way. That could be why. I'm just trying to stabilize this. So yeah, I ended up doing more, I guess, going abroad focused course. I remember my mom telling me, oh, we need to plan for the worst. If somehow I couldn't get into a very good university in America, then with the IELTS, I could try going to maybe Britain or something. And if that couldn't happen, maybe we could try France. So she's like, oh, either way, you would definitely be able to do a course somewhere. So then I was studying IELTS, which was more British, really. Whereas I spoke in an American way, which was not bad. They didn't really care about that. So I remember being focused more and more on the English rather than school coursework. So eventually I had to do the IELTS test. And the first one was alright for my age. It wasn't fantastic. It was, I think, 6. But somehow my mum decided to go to this, I guess, info session about studying in Australia. So then afterwards she came back and she was like, oh, today I went to this info session about studying in Australia, and it sounded really good compared to America, because in America the lifestyle is, quite fast paced, and it seems pretty chill in Australia. So would you actually consider, like, what would you like, what would you want to do, what would you think that would suit you more? And then I thought about it and I was like, chill sounds good. Why not do chill? And also, I think the requirement to come to Australia wasn't as hard. But then I never thought about, okay, what if I can't understand the accent? Anyways, so I kept doing more IELTS training. And then because I studied the things related to SAT, I actually did an SAT test in Hong Kong. I didn't do very well. I think overall my score was in the 1800s. And then I did a second IELTS test, and that was like 6.5. So then my mom was like, oh, instead of waiting until you finish high school in China, you could actually go to Australia for foundation. I was like, what's foundation? So then she told me, oh, it's, the year 12 equivalent. It's more university focused, which means, let's say if you want to go to a particular university and they have this foundation course under the university, it's more likely for you to get into that university once you finish and you achieve this, optimal mark. So I was like, okay, that sounds good. And with my IELTS score, I could easily get in because I did the Monash Foundation. But I was still worried because test and real life was different. So in foundation, they actually offer a language course, which means before the actual foundation starts, you could, come in early for a few months and speed up your English or greatly improve your English because it's like a crash course. So I was like, oh, just to make sure I can understand the teacher, maybe I should do that. My mom was like, maybe. So then she consulted some people and they were like, oh, with your IELTS score, don't think there's a need. Because normally it's for students who did not reach the IELTS score but still want to come. So then they offer this language course beforehand. So hopefully once you are in this English speaking environment with the help they provide, you do the IELTS test again and you would, reach the marks that's required. So then my mom's like, oh, I've asked people, I don't think you need it. So we could just go when the course starts. So then everything was ready and I was due to come after, not long after I turned 18. And then there's the thing about, accommodation. Like what's the next step? Where should I stay? So because I turned 18 when I got here, technically I will be able to rent a place myself. But I was timid, I was shy, so I thought about a homestay. But then it's always like, oh, which homestay should you go for? Because you know nothing about the country. So then I just had this idea that, okay, maybe I could figure it out myself. So then I went to a website and started looking for information about homestay. And I found this homestay that seemed pretty good. So we went back and forth. Decided everything, when I would be there, whether they would, come and pick me up from the airport. They actually said they would. But my mom's like, oh, what if they're dodgy? Maybe we should organize someone to pick you up and then, drive you there. So at least we know you would safely be there. So that's what happened. I got to the homestay. I remember them not making fun, but just very nicely joking about my American accent And then I would call things, you know, ketchup, just apple, things like that. I didn't really consciously change my accent. It sort of just slowly happened. But at the time, it wasn't really shifting. I would still, you know, the American, the American speaker. I've got a confetti stitch. Where would this be? Somewhere here, I think. Maybe here? Yeah, I think so. So there's a confetti stitch here. Yep. So I did have trouble understanding them because when I did all those training, I guess to make the training itself easier, either the teacher or the coursework would always have very slow speaking speed, but in real life, people just, you know, get their meanings across. And also, I wasn't very used to the Aussie accent either. So I am someone who's quite sensitive to accents, unfortunately. I'm much better now, but still. At the time, I was hopeless. I remember having trouble understanding British accent. So I was slowly getting used to the speed of how people talk in Australia. Also certain words like chop chop, I never heard of it before they, you know, started speaking that to me. Or like, what are you up to? I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, huh? What do you mean? To me, it was very strange, but I was getting used to it. Also, maybe the 1000th time I mentioned, I'm a very shy person in general. So at the start, I would just keep to myself, stay in my room. I mean, I didn't want to be rude, so I would keep the door open. But they would always check on me. Oh, are you okay? They thought like there was something wrong with me. But eventually I realized they probably just wanted me to hang out with them. So then I started going out to do my homework, you know, interacting with the kids there. They had 3 boys. And I would, I guess, speak more and more. And then one day they decided to take all the kids to a movie called, I think, Rango, where Johnny Depp was a lizard. Was it? Yeah. So I remember, okay, we were all going there. And literally I had no idea what was going on in that movie. Because, you know, people were doing accents and I wasn't used to how people spoke in I guess movies or series. I don't know whether I understood 50% of it, to be honest. And also at that time I was more used to things with some kind of subtitles. So yeah, I was just finishing the movie and oh gosh, that's it. Okay, yeah, that's fine. The pictures were fun. And you know, and then we just left. And then the following, I guess, months, I would watch a lot of movies with the family members, but I didn't really understand too much, or I would get confused half of the time. But I guess now I'm quite grateful for those periods. I think that got me used to the normal talking speed a lot quicker. And also, I guess, forcing myself to listen all the time. And the good thing is, in the foundation course, the teachers were still speaking pretty slowly. I guess that's just to make students' life easier. Sorry, I'm looking for stitches again. Oh, seriously. Is that it? I have no idea where I'm at. Maybe here. Oh gosh, this one is. Oh, I know. Okay, there's Wayne. Yeah. And I remember when I started the foundation course, I was surprised at how many Chinese speaking students there were. I will not say Chinese students, Chinese international students, because there were a lot of Malaysians, Hong Kongese. I don't know whether that's, bad to say, but anyways. And a lot of them were, staying with other Chinese. So it's pretty much only during the class they would speak English. And then all the other opportunities, all the other times they would speak Chinese. Whereas me, I was pretty much speaking English 24/7. Obviously, when I would interact with the other Chinese students, I would speak Chinese, but that's a very short period of time. So my English was slowly improving. I couldn't feel any improvement myself, because from my point of view, when I was watching anything on TV, I would still be, half confused. But I guess things would take a little while to take off, right? So then I decided to move out of the homestay to save some money and I guess to be fully independent. Now that I got to know what it was like to live in Australia, and I also learned, some of the, I guess, local habits, how things worked. So then I had this Chinese roommate. Oops. I dropped my scissors.
Help?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Where is it?
Down there. So JP was kind enough to pick up my fallen scissors. Thank you.
Oh, that's hard.
Then I finished my foundation, decided to move again to somewhere that would be close to the uni. I remember like a lot of people in that foundation year would be doing, commerce, accounting, things that were more like money related. There were not many people that chose to do health related courses because it required higher marks to get in, so it was a lot more daunting. Plus, that pretty much means at the end of the course you would choose to stay in the country rather than going back to wherever you belong or wherever you're from. But I chose pharmacy. And I got in. Thank God. So then I wasn't sure what to expect when I got into the course. I was hoping there would be people from the same country. So at least I could talk to someone. Because even though my English was okay, I was still very timid to talk. Especially in a language I still wasn't quite mastering. Unfortunately, to my dismay, technically we're talking mainland China. I only found one person. And then, unfortunately, that person eventually failed some units and was, I guess, out of our year level. Anyways, so then I somehow got into this friend circle where most people were Vietnamese. May it be like of Vietnamese heritage or, you know, from Vietnam, but I don't know. I was in this friend circle, which means, you know, we would have to speak English to each other. There was no other option. And also, I was getting used to, you know, different accents as well. My best friend, I was not trying to be malicious. She actually has very strong accent. I remember first having lots of trouble trying to understand her, but now I am a lot better. Because I'm used to how she pronounces things, how she said certain phrases. And I suppose she's more comfortable telling me if she doesn't understand me as well. So then, not long after I started uni, I met JP. So if you remember from my previous videos, we met online. We were talking for a bit. The good thing about talking online is you could reread what you typed, and you've noticed if there was a wrong usage of some words or there might be grammar mistakes, you could just change them. So we were talking, and there wasn't... Would you say there were a lot of troubles trying to understand me?
Online? No, not at all.
But I still was not confident. Eventually, when it was time for us to meet, I told JP, oh, you really need to, you know, forgive me if I couldn't understand you, or what if my English is really bad, blah, blah, blah. And JP was, I don't know, I think in his mind, he was thinking, oh, I'm going to meet this fob girl, fob girl from China who really couldn't speak very well. So he was ready to be patient. I mean, when we went on our first date to watch a movie, it was a bit awkward. We talked, and he talks a lot. But he talks really fast, normally. So I just remember kept asking him, sorry? Because I really couldn't catch whatever he was saying. And also, I remember thinking, wow, this guy's tall. So I couldn't hear him very well. And I was timid. So like, I thought, oh my god, I kept saying, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you. That's so rude. But I don't think he minded at all.
No.
So then we started dating, you know. Well, I guess I decided to give it a shot and see how it's gonna go. And that's obviously a story all of its own. This is not a dating story. And because we always talk in English, we typed in English, and at uni I was speaking English. Where I lived at the time, there were Chinese people. So I would speak Chinese when I was at home, but there was not a lot of interaction with those people. Eventually, I got in touch with some Malaysian classmates, and then we ended up living together for a year. And that place was very close to uni. So then at home I would speak English, but sometimes we would talk in, I would speak Chinese, but sometimes we would talk in English because, you know, Malaysians, their English is not bad. So then eventually, because JP was renting as well with other people and I was renting, so we decided to rent together. And that's when I think my English really excelled, because that really forced me to think in English, you know, read in English, talk in English, everything's in English. I don't think that's correct. No, that's not correct. Yeah, so if you learn a foreign language, you know, sometimes they say if you start dreaming in that language, that means you're getting somewhere. And I think eventually I started dreaming in English, and that was very funny because it was very strange. I think in my dream I was just talking gibberish. It was in English nevertheless. And I thought, ooh, maybe my English is getting better. And after I started dating JP, he was introducing me to a lot of, this is not good, in English shows. And then I had to, I guess I was forced to watch a lot of British shows. I remember having so much trouble trying to understand people in the shows because I was so used to American accent. And then he was sweet enough to try to get me subtitles. Obviously not Chinese subtitles, but English subtitles. So at least I could read what they were saying. But sometimes they talk so fast, I couldn't even read the subtitles fast enough. But I think back and forth, I eventually got much better in understanding accents. And also I could watch shows without subtitles and still get, you know, most of the things they were saying. And slowly, my accents shifted as well. I remember when we first went on a proper date, he said I sounded like a New Yorker or someone who's from America or at least received some form of education in America. But eventually that American accent was going away and I really wasn't trying to change. I think it's just something in my brain just shifted slowly. And I have noticed because I've done internship in the country, and for some reason in the country there were quite a few American/Canadian sounding people. When I talk to them, I automatically wanted to talk in an American-ish accent. And I remember trying to control myself so bad because I didn't want to, you know, sound like I was making fun of their accent or anything. But it's like there's a switch that got turned on. That was very strange. So one of JP's martial arts friends, I remember when originally we started hanging out from time to time, he would just curiously say, oh, Floz, you sound a bit American. And then a few years after that, you know, we didn't meet very often. He was like, oh, your accent's changed, isn't it? And he sounded quite impressed. So I thought that was a very interesting thing. And now it would it would take me a bit of effort to try to sound American, and there's no point. There's nothing wrong with sounding Australian, that's okay. So the interesting thing is, yes, to people from other countries I sound Australian, but to some Australians who, you know, have an ear for hints of accents, I sound slightly American. I know I definitely have an accent, it's just not a typical Asian accent, I guess. But hopefully that long and convoluted and full of pause stories like illustrated how I got this accent. You know, a bit of everything, a mix. How long have I been talking?
Just over an hour.
Wow. I originally wanted to talk about also how we fit different hobbies into our lives, because we have pretty busy life schedules. But I think I've talked long enough.
Yeah.
And also because I had to think about certain details in Chinese that made a lot of
That's what your brain was doing, ticking away.
yeah, things very hard to speak about. It's very strange. Because those experience was in Chinese, obviously.
You're translating.
So I was consciously translating them very badly.
I didn't notice. It was just like you were having very considered talking. Like you just didn't want to.
And hopefully that wasn't too painful of an experience.
No, I enjoyed listening to it. And I got my summary feedback to you now, so everyone's happy.
Yeah, so originally the thought was I could talk and then JP would paint and then he could join the conversation from time to time, but turned out he had something else to do as well, which required more concentration than painting. So he was getting that done for, I guess, the majority of the time when I was talking to you guys. And he's finally done with that, I'm thinking.
Well done. Well, shall we stop it?
So I guess I'll stop here. Let me know what you guys want to know. Very urgently. I could, I guess, fulfill your curiosity. Otherwise, I'll just talk at my own pace, at my own plans. And see you or rambling to you in another video. And I got my stitching done as well. That's great. Thanks for listening. Bye.